Welcome to episode 148 of Stageworthy. I'm your host, Phil Rickaby. Stageworthy is a podcast about people in Canadian theatre featuring conversations with actors, directors, playwrights, and more. The astute among you may have noticed that there was no episode last week, and if you were looking for one, I'm sorry for that. I was super tired. I just got back from the Halifax Fringe, and I just didn't have anything in the tank, so there was no episode last week. So I'd like to apologize for that. If you were looking forward to an episode or maybe an update about Fringe, all of that stuff. If you really want to know how Fringe was, take a look at the Fringe roundups that I recorded in St. John for the Fundy Fringe and the two in Halifax. That'll give you sort of a sense about how things were. Guys, the Fringe season is over. That's it. It just ended. 3 Fringe festivals ended. The last 3 that end the Fringe season ended. And if you participated in a Fringe, congratulations, you finished the season. If you toured with a Fringe show, oh my God, you're amazing. The Fringe is doing a show at Fringe is so challenging and hard at times, but rewarding. So if you took a Fringe on tour, you went to a place that you're not from and you did a show, you are amazing. And you should be proud of yourself for everything that you accomplished, regardless of reviews or audience or anything else. You did the thing. So amazing for you. I did the thing, and it had its good moments. It had its bad moments. I had moments of exhilaration. I had moments where I broke down and cried. And that, I think, is just taking a Fringe show on tour. There are always going to be challenges, and sometimes you have to let it out. And I did. You know, if you guys enjoy the show, if you like Stageworthy, if you could tell a friend about it, if you think they would enjoy it, that would be amazing. I have always loved when somebody suggests a podcast to me, and when I like that podcast, when I love that podcast, I'm actually more loyal to that podcast because somebody suggested that I listen to it. So if you enjoy this podcast and you know somebody that you think would love it, tell them about it. And if you want to tell me about the person that you introduced to the show, or tell me if somebody introduced you to the show and you want to tell me about it, or you just want to tell me what you think about the show, I would love to hear from you. You can find Stageworthy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at StageworthyPod. You can find the website at stageworthypodcast.com. And you know what? If you want to drop me a line, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Phil Rickaby, and my website is philrickaby.com. My guest this week is Jennifer Walls, and Jennifer is a Toronto-based performer, producer, voice actor, and now the director of the Hart House production of Heathers the Musical. And I don't know about you, but I have been basically obsessed with Heathers as a musical ever since I heard that it was a thing. I've not had the chance to see it. I've only had the chance, as many of us have, to listen to the amazing soundtrack from the Off-Broadway production. I'm looking forward to seeing this because this musical is pretty amazing. The music is great, and I know Jennifer is putting a whole lot into it. And from everything that I've seen on Instagram, and even and from the things that she talked about in our conversation, I know that it's going to be an amazing show. So if you haven't got your tickets, get your tickets for the Hart House production of Heathers. And here's my conversation with Jennifer Walls. But you're going from, this is the first thing, Heathers is the first thing that you've directed.
Yeah, just a little 20-person controversial dark comedy.
Sure,
no big deal.
Yeah.
I mean,
first off, how did that happen? And how do you feel about it?
Well, okay, so it's a long story, and so I'll try and make it as concise as possible. So Hart House is the first. Well, okay, let's go to the. So how did it start? In the winter. Okay, it goes back to last year. This is really inarticulate. This is a great start. So last year I was really sick in the spring, and we didn't know what it was, and we were looking up several different things that it could be and the different like side effects and symptoms and outcomes and what it could be. And one of them was that I could potentially lose my voice if it was this one particular thing that was happening. And so I was like, okay, so how does someone whose voice is their entire career, what do I do to support myself and also to like continue to fulfill myself creatively?
Yeah.
Because literally like all my work is like singing and acting and voiceover work and singing, like being a singing teacher and all this stuff. So I was like, well, directing maybe is a way that I could like still communicate and still be within that community. And that's not to say, oh, I could just be a director. Like I didn't know that I could do it, but I was like, this is something I could look into to maybe, you know. So it turns out it wasn't the worst case scenario, and it was fine. I'm not going to lose my voice, although I've had my share of vocal problems over the past year, which has been a whole other thing. But so in the winter, I started to seriously consider this, and Heathers was a musical that in doing the open mic that I did, I would hear a lot of songs from Heathers, and it's a great score. And I was like, I have this idea. And I'd say a lot of things, like I'd talk a lot. And I was like, how much of it do I actually follow through? Yeah, a decent amount, but not all of it. So I was like, I'm going to do this one day. So I just kind of threw it into the universe. And then I approached Hart House. And I was like, so what do you think about this idea? Because Hart House is the first theater I ever worked at in Toronto. Okay. So when I moved here after theater school, I went to Sheridan College. And I moved here. And then someone sent me an audition notice for Reefer Madness, which is also a Kevin Murphy piece, and he wrote Heathers, which is a crazy full circle. So someone was like, oh, this sounds like something you could do. You should do it. I almost didn't go to the audition, which is funny. And then I did. And so I did Reefer Madness at Hart House. And then I went back and I did High Fidelity as well a few years later. So, you know, and I'd stayed in touch with the team and kind of was familiar with the infrastructure and how it kind of worked. And I love that it's an environment that's meant to learn. Sure. Everybody there, it's kind of the understanding we're all there to learn together. And it's not about like, I mean, it's always about perfection. We always want to be the best we can, obviously, but this is more about learning and giving opportunity to emerging artists and working together and learning and honing in on your craft. So I was like, okay, what do you think about this idea? And the rights weren't available at the time. But he was like, come in for a meeting and there's like a questionnaire you fill out if you are proposing or a potential director at Hart House. And I was going through this questionnaire, and it was in the winter. The winter was rough. I think it was a rough winter for a lot of people this year, just because it was so just like gray and disgusting for months on end. And it was really nice to have something to focus on in the winter, being like, I feel crappy, but there's this. So I was going through this questionnaire and realized I have answers for these questions. Like, I haven't written an essay in years, so it had been a while. And I was like getting really excited about it. And I was like, this is cool. This is great. And because I'm familiar with the way that sort of infrastructure of theater works, and I'd done different like fringe shows and self-produced work and equity work also, and a mix of like professional and non-professional stuff. So I felt like I had a good scope of how it worked. And it's a great show. Yeah. It's a great message. It's a great show for Hart House because it's a high school, set in a high school, and so it's a lot of young people, which is great. And then, went in, had the meeting. Turns out we got the rights, and they would like to have me on, and it just kind of all came together. It was good timing. It was just the right time, I guess. Things aligned, and I had put it out in the universe a while ago, and just kind of kept on it and followed through, which is not something I do all the time. Talk a big game. Do I follow up? Not all the time. So, I feel like it was just something that was kind of meant to happen right now, and it's been a really good exercise for me working with these young people, and like I teach singing as a job as well, so like, and I've produced and kind of directed a little bit here and there and self-produced. So I've worked with teams before, but it's been really cool getting to work with them as you know, and I'm like, well, maybe I'm not ready for this. I was like, that was Reefer Madness was 12 years ago. I've done a lot of different stuff in that time and learned a lot, and I fully admit that I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers. Which I feel like makes it almost easier because I'm just so open to collaboration, and I'm open to learning. So it's a very like, it's just a really good collaborative atmosphere. Like everybody's on the same page, like design wise, staging wise. The cast is amazing. Yeah. So it's kind of been like, it's early days still. Yeah. Like I got back into town like not too long ago. Yeah. But yeah, that's how it came about. I was audacious and asked, and guess some part of me thought I was ready, and here we are.
I mean, for directors, I mean, a lot of times people think they have to know everything, but some of the best directors that I've worked with are like, I don't know, what do we think? Yeah. And that's a more collaborative environment than, I know the answer.
Yeah, and both are right. Yeah. Neither is, one is maybe not better than the other. I think there's room for all different styles of leadership, and as long as I feel like if you can communicate clearly and supportively, like my kind of goal is for us to all learn from each other and learn together. But I have ideas, and I have a vision of what I think the show is and what I want certain things to be like, and then I communicate that to like my choreographer or my music director or my fight choreographer, and then they take that and turn it into they use the language that they know. I don't know. I'm not a dancer. I can pretend to be one, but like I don't. My choreographer Amanda sees these beautiful pictures, and just that's why I was like, I want to work with you because you communicate very well and are very positive, and she has a great, aura about her, and she sees beautiful pictures. Yeah. And so I trust her to do that, and I learn from her, and we work together. Like, my goal is just kind of to be as specific as I can, but also if I don't know something, I have a great assistant director as well, who's directed before, who's a U of T student, and she's fantastic. So it's been really, like, I've already been learning so much. Nice. But yeah, my kind of thing is to just be confident in what I do know and honest when I don't, and be open to collaborating and trust the people that I brought on to the team to do their job as well, because I don't know how to do what they do, which is why we're working together.
Well, I mean, nobody can do everything in theater, right?
But can't we try? Don't we all?
If you're going to lose your mind, which is a quick road to trying to lose your mind.
I lost mine. But it's been a really good exercise in delegation as well. Being like, you do that. Because I'm just so used to self-producing my own stuff or being in my own stuff. And my designer was like, stop volunteering to do things. You're not going to do that one thing. I'm like, but okay. Yeah. Okay.
That is actually a tough lesson to learn if you're used to like fringe or self-producing and all that stuff, where you do everything.
Well, the first time we did Rocky Horror at the Lower Ossington, like a long time ago, I did all of the things. And like, I was happy to do it because I was very specific in what I wanted, and the infrastructure wasn't in place yet to have a team of people. Yeah. So I was like, I can do that and that and that and that. But it's like, now that there are other people that are capable of doing it, you're taking away what their function is, and not undermining their abilities, but I guess kind of. Yeah. And then I'm not focusing on the art that I'm supposed to be doing and the pictures I'm supposed to make and the story I'm there to tell. So it's been really great trusting people to hand things off to, and then doing what I need to do in the rehearsal. So there's more than one thing happening, but also being there to like listen to them rehearse vocals or watch them do, and have input and like consult as we go. But it's been a really ideal experience so far. And Hart House for me, like when I did it the first year when we did Reefer Madness, it was so special. I don't know if it was because it was my first show in the city, it was my first lead, and it was just such a special group of people, and that creative team were amazing. They were fantastic, and they made it something really meaningful. And so for me, I feel like being back there directing my first show now, where I performed my first show here in that environment, it's special to me too, especially because it's full circle, but also that theater, there's some kind of magic in that basement, and it's important to me to make it a special and empowering experience while telling this story that is so important right now.
Nice. Yeah. What was your first exposure to Heathers? Was it the musical?
It was the movie.
The movie, excellent, good.
1989. So I love Winona Ryder, and I'll admit it, I was a Shannon Doherty fan, even though she was a total, typecast as not the nicest person, but I loved her. I thought it was so cool. So I read about Heathers in a book. I don't know what book it was, but I just remember this, like, image of Shannon Doherty with the shoulder pads and the croquet mallet and the like 80s glasses, and I was like, what is this? And then I like looked into it because, you know, when things used to be in books and we didn't have the internet, which is a fun thing to talk about with my cast because they're all in their 20s. So I think we have like one or two casts that were alive when the movie came out.
And are they playing teachers and dads?
Well, I mean, we need to have them. But I put together this like document of 80s references for them just to be like, you know,
of course,
here, like, watch these TV shows and like these are the top movies of the 80s, and just like going back there was like such a trip just to see like all the things. But yeah, my first exposure to it was the film. I think I was too young to really appreciate it, but then when it came out as a musical, I was like, oh yeah, that show. And they're like, it's the original Mean Girls, which it's the original a lot of things.
It is. Because the first time I saw Mean Girls, I was like, huh, this is a lot like Heathers.
I feel like I've seen this before.
But without the murder.
But with, yeah, there is spoiler alert. There's,
I mean, the movie came out in, like,
89? Yeah.
So, I think the spoiler embargo is
I guess so, eh?
over,
Well, I mean, you tell us.
But I mean, I think that the musical is a little more on its message than the movie is.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is they rewrote it in 2011, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the events leading up, it gives us a different perspective after seeing all of the stuff that's happened, especially in the States. We've been a bit more fortunate up here. Yeah. Mind you, we're not perfect by any means, but it's interesting, like, especially to be doing it right now. Like, it just feels very, I don't know what the word is, but it feels like it's just, this is the time that we need to tell this story, especially when, like, you know, funding for mental health is in question, and we have like what just happened in the city not too long ago, and the government talking about like firearms and funding and all of this stuff. Like, it's a time we need to talk about it, and it's a great way to talk about it, you know, with singing and dancing, but making it palatable. Because I read this thing, like, we don't joke about and laugh about things that are, like, in the face of things that are pleasant and fun. We laugh in the face of things that are difficult and hard to deal with. And that's, I think, what Heathers is. It's a really good mix of amazing musical numbers and choreography and you know, a tribute to the film, but it's also got this message of how important it is to treat each other with kindness and empathy and compassion, and not to be divided and against each other, because we can't make any change if we're fighting one another. And so it's this beautiful, like, view through the eyes of a 17-year-old who I like to think is kind of I feel like Veronica Sawyer is like a cross between, like, Dorothy Gale from The Wizard of Oz and Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yes,
you know, like, she's got these ideals that are like, she goes through every emotion ever, and is like, well, this is right and this should happen. Oh, but this isn't happening, and it's like happy, sad, but also she's like totally badass. Yeah. So it's a good mix of that, and I love a story with a strong female heroine, you know, and absolutely. I think we need that in the world now too. Like, with all the, just it feels like a really good time to do it. But yeah, to answer your question, movie in '89 is when I started to like it. Well, it was probably like 94, 95 when I could really appreciate it, just before Clueless, which completely distracted me from Heathers.
Well, it would.
Right?
I mean, when I missed seeing Heathers Off-Broadway, like, by a month.
Oh,
because I was going to New York, and it was just closing, like, just before I went. But I was completely obsessed with the music from the show.
It's a beautiful score.
It is kick-ass. Mm-hmm. It's kick-ass.
It's a hard sing, too. Like, there's a couple of the hardest, like, characters, like, female characters in, like, contemporary musical theater, it's said, that in that show. But it's a tough sing. Yeah. So, like, when we were casting, too, we were like, what's your choral experience? How are you with harmonies? Because it's like to 1,000-part harmony at the easiest of times. And our cast is, like, they're crushing it. They sound fantastic. But it's just a deceptively difficult score because it just sounds and works so well. But when you break it all down, like, it's nutty.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot
in those
going
choral
on.
numbers. Yeah,
there really is. And like Kevin Murphy, like, who did Reefer, because I love that I'm so familiar with his work from before, so I kind of am like, that's a very Kevin thing. This reminds me of this, or this is like an iconic moment that kind of mirrors this other song. But they're very clever in the way that it's written, in that everything's intentional. Yeah. And so we listen to the music and compare it to the action, compare it to the narrative at the time, and it's just brilliantly done, and it's also succinct. And I mean, I guess that's most musicals. Like, it's supposed to be that way.
It should be that way.
It should. Yeah. And it's just like the themes that recur in it, coming back and forth, and like looking at it not as a performer doing one track, but looking at it as almost like a puppet master, and how do I make all of these things work together? Like, it's very, very clever. Yeah. And it's beautiful. There are some beautiful songs with beautiful lyrics that I'm Portuguese. I get emotional about a lot of things, but like, I just listen to it at the gym, reading my script, and I'm just like a mess, like crying on the treadmill. Okay, on the elliptical. Anyone who knows me knows that I don't use the treadmill, but it's very moving. Yeah, they've done a really good job. It's very, very moving.
It's clever in that. I mean, the first act has some of the most. I don't know, Candy Store is a rocking song. Like, that is like a kick-ass song.
And our girls are amazing. Like, it's it's nutty. Nice. But the kind of, like, for me, like, I love rock musicals, and I grew up watching Andrew Lloyd Webber. Like, I'm from a small town, and grew up going to Ottawa to the, like, National Arts Centre to see all the tours that came through. Right. But my first big one was coming to see Phantom in Toronto at the Pantages. Right. So I grew up with that, like, larger than life, like, fantastical, mega musical era, right? And to me, Heathers has so many of those aspects as well. Yeah. And, like, I love rock musicals. Like, Rent is one of my favorite musicals. I'll say it. I like it.
There's no reason not to. Also, no judgment here. No judgment here.
I'm proud to do it like it. But it has... Oh, I've lost my train of thought thinking of Rent. Yeah, so for me, what I want to do with it too is to make all the musical numbers are larger than life, especially in the open, like the first act. It's almost like Into the Woods that way, where the first act and the second act are quite different in tone. Yeah, but like Candy Store, Dead Girl Walking, like, we want to make them like, it's like rock concerts with scenes in between. So like Candy Store is very like Madonna almost. So we've got this like fierce, thing, and it was very inspired by like the ballroom battles in New York City in the 80s, like, because that was a huge parallel we drew between like the Heathers and their like facade to be popular, and what the principle of like the battles were back then, of like prestige and aesthetic and character and one-upping each other, and so yeah, it's an epic. Act 1 is epic for sure. I mean, they both are. It's a lot, but that's kind of, our set is incredible, and like our lighting designer is also incredible. I've worked with both of them, and we've got this amazing setup that's really, I think, going to reflect that like 80s pop rock, concert feel. Yeah, which is going to be great. Like when they did Hedwig last year, which was another one of my favorite shows. I find it's almost kind of similar to that, in that we hear Hedwig's story and we go through her narrative. It's the same with Veronica. It's like, this is what happened here, and then I went through this, and then this, and then this, and like, how do we get to who she started to how she ends up, right, in the journey that she takes. And it's similar, and I wanted to have that like rock concert feel, because I'm a big rock girl. Like, I love
It's one of the things I appreciate about the musical, because the movie sort of drops you in. She's already a Heather. Yeah. And the musical gives you, like, how did she become a Heather? Which is, like, I was like, that's how you start this musical.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like, you would think being popular would be easier than being not popular. But then you get a look from the inside, like the belly of the beast almost. And it's like, is it worth it? Is the price of popularity worth it? Yeah. Which is something, and And I think these musical numbers are so massive the way they've written them, because when you're a teenager, it's always the end of the world.
Yeah.
Everything that happens is the end of the world. And I see it with my music students a lot, that they get, especially when I used to teach in schools, just the things that kids get upset about. And it's like, I know it's not a big deal, but to them it's everything.
Of course.
Because their scope is so narrow.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because it's a commonality that the entire company has. We all were in high school. Well, it's funny because our Veronica was homeschooled.
Oh.
So she never went to high school. So we've been chatting about like the dichotomy of like cliques and politics in high school and this and that. And it's been really interesting. Isn't that? Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, she's amazing. Her name is Emma Singali, and she's a star. Like, everybody in the company is a star, though, which is the thing. But it's important to have, characters that you care about. And in reading Kevin's notes about the show, like, it's important. We want to give a reason to care about these people, even if they are mean or violent or cruel or dumb, seemingly. Like, nobody's that way just to be that way.
Yeah.
So, like, why are we?
Why? Yeah.
Why is it? And through caring about them, we connect with them, and we want, it's a bigger investment for people, which I guess is the point. But I think the musical numbers are big because that's what it's like being a teenager. Everything is like huge, and the changes, the emotional changes are so quick, because it's like 1 minute, oh my god, I'm so happy, oh my god, it's the end of the world, oh my god, I don't know how I can live another day, oh my god, I love you so much, oh I hate you, oh I want to be your friend, oh no, don't look at me again. Like, it's a lot. So, and I tell the cast too, I'm like, this show is a lot, so you need to, like, it's very important that everybody is very kind to themselves. I was like, we need to make an agreement to take care of each other while we go down. It's kind of like this dark rabbit hole of content, because it's a lot. And they've been doing such a great job so far. But we've all been there. Yeah. For the most part. So going back there it's been a trip. I've forgotten a lot of things about high school until we started the show, and I was like, oh god, I remember that guy.
I think we're supposed to forget things about high school. I think it's best that way.
My head doesn't miss the space it used to take up. I'm sure there's something more rational in there somewhere. Yeah, but it's interesting. It's interesting, and it hits all the, like, archetypes of the high school hierarchy, and we talk about, like, where did you fit in? Where would you have been? And how would you have felt about this person or that person? And it's interesting. Yeah. It's really interesting. I think it's, I guess it's good to go back and reconnect to where you came from, or not. I don't know.
I guess it kind of depends on how your high school experience was and how you feel about it.
Yeah, well, that's how we started today. I was like, did anybody actually like high school? And some people were like, yeah. And I'm like, did anyone not? And they were like, yeah. And some people didn't have an opinion. And I was like, that's fine. I was like, when you're, you don't have to. Yeah. I'm trying to be very, very gentle with how we talk about things. Sure. Just because we deal with a lot of issues in the show. So it's like, the more comfortably and at everyone's own pace that we can deal with it, I think the more authentically we can tell the story, just by being really gentle and not freaking anybody out or expecting anybody to react or say or do anything. It's like, we'll kind of roll at the pace that is comfortable for us as a company, making that agreement. And I learned this from James Wallace, who directed Titus last year, and he did a talk, and that is a very dark show as well. And not to say, like, if anyone doesn't know Heathers, it's not like a terrible, dark, depressing show. There's a lot of comedy and lightness and music and song and dance in it too. Yeah. But there are moments. But he was like, as a company, we tap into rehearsal, we do the thing, and then as a company, we tap out of rehearsal and we go on with our lives. So I was like, I think that's very important for us to adopt as well. We have a great, like, fight choreographer and intimacy coach who's going to help with a lot of the stuff, which was very important to me as well. Yeah. No, it's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. And when things get dark, I think, and a lot of times a lot of productions don't think about when people leave rehearsal and taking care of themselves. And people can carry shit around if you don't let it go.
Well, that's the thing. And I have my own experiences with like mental health and this, that, and the other. And when you're singing, like, the lyrics in our rehearsal today, we had a full day of rehearsal, and a lot of it was very aggressive. So I was like, okay, make sure you go home and do something nice. Whatever that means to you, try your best to leave this here because this is a play. At the end of the day, try and whatever that means to you, because taking care of your voice is very important for this show. Taking care of yourself physically is very important. I was like, but emotionally, mentally, it's also important to balance. And we try to keep the room light.
Yeah.
And we do. And my music director, Justin McLean, and I are very good foils to each other. I think we make a good team that way. And everybody on the team is just very keeping it light, keeping it bright, and giving people the space to explore those darker like lyrics and scenes without it just being like, oh my god, this feels like a Shakespearean tragedy. Yeah. Which, you know, I guess in moments it is, but I definitely want people to not take it home with them because it's a lot at times.
It is, but ultimately the show is a lot of fun, right? I mean, it's
a mega musical. It's a, you know, it is a dark comedy, but it is a comedy. And I, coming from the musical theater background I've come from, like, depending on what the audience is, we've got some little, like, Easter eggs that are from different musicals. So we've got something for the musical theater crowd, and then we've got, like, a bunch of stuff for people that are coming because of the movie. Yeah. So I feel like there's a little something for everybody. Because I am a child of the 80s. I love the 80s, and I love musical theater. And at the end of the day, it's a musical. Yeah. And there are things in it, like it's fantasy. There are these numbers that are just blown out of proportion, because that's what the high school mind is. It's like, oh my god, he held my hand. Oh! And it's the emotional... It takes up the emotional space of, say, a song and dance number. Yeah. So that's been a lot of fun to keep the humor and the lightness and the fact that it's a musical comedy.
Yes. Yeah.
It does deal with things, but that dark subject matter is just a catalyst for the message. Like, through these tragedies, are we learning the importance of togetherness and compassion and kindness and it, you know, so those dark things are aspects of it, but at the end of the day, yes, it's a musical comedy with a beautiful message that's very important for us to tell the world. And I told the cast that too. I'm like, you know, this song sounds silly, and it is silly, you know, this song or that song, but the message is very important. So keep the message authentic, and then we'll dress it up. You know, the notes and the choreography are like accessories to the message. And it seems to be, they're striking a really beautiful balance. It's very exciting to see it already come together and the different journeys that they're all on. And even just in the opening number itself, I love it because you see the armor of high school students, and then you see the truth behind it, like right away, which really sets us up for the journey of every character in the show. It's a beautifully written show. Like, it's really well done. Yeah, it's a privilege. It really is a privilege to lead a group doing this show.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. What is your theater origin story? As I grew up in a small town and went to Ottawa to see some shows at the NAC and saw Phantom at the Pantages Theatre. What?
The first time I saw Phantom.
What was it that drew you to like made you want to do it?
Oh, I think careers in the arts kind of choose you. I've always sang, I've always danced, I've always, like, put on plays at home. Like, Fred Penner was my first concert when I was 2. That totally dates myself, although I've already said that I'm an 80s kid.
Well, listen, we're 80s kids in this room right now.
Right?
So we're good.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was raised with music always. Like Sharon Lewis and Bram and like I said, like Fred Penner and all that kind of stuff. So I went to see, it was my first concert, and I, like, cried because I was so overwhelmed as I was there, and he was right there. And then, I don't know how I got onto Phantom, but, like, I had the cassettes, and I had all the memorabilia. I was obsessed. Like, I was obsessed. Yeah. And we came to Toronto when I was 6 or 7 and came to see it here, and I just it doesn't get more epic, really, to me. I guess Les Mis is pretty epic, too, but I'm a Phantom child. So to me, like, how much bigger do you get starting a show with a giant organ and a chandelier? Like, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Phantom.
If you haven't seen Phantom by now.
Like, I mean, how many 80s are we going to ruin for people?
We're ruining all of the 80s. Stay tuned, guys. We're going to ruin all the 80s.
All the 80s. And you're welcome. So, I I was so overwhelmed
Yeah.
by it. So I couldn't even tell you why. I just think it, and we came here, we spent 2 days here, me, my mom, my dad, my grandma, and I was just like, this is what I want to do. I want to be part of this epic magic that is pretend, you know, and theater was really helpful when, like, my parents split up and my grandparents passed and I switched schools and I was, you know, this, that, and the other thing. I always, regardless of what I gained or lost interest in, music and theater is the one thing that's been consistent and the one thing I can connect from my life now to my life when I was a kid, which I think, and like you said, we forget high school, but like we all have that through line.
Yeah.
And we can always reconnect, and that is theater and music. And I know that I'm on the right path because, I mean, yes, I've seen Phantom about 1,000 times. And I will see it 1,000 more. And I've met and worked with so many people I saw in that production, and my director that I just worked with, David Rogers, was in it. Like, he was the Phantom, he was Raoul when I saw it first. So to have met and be working with these people, to me, I mean, I'm a geek for that kind of stuff.
Do you ever, when you end up working with these people, do you have a moment of like when you're like, I'm gonna fangirl if I'm not careful? Like, do you have? Moments of that?
So my first year at Sheridan, June Crowley started as a teacher, like a private teacher, and I was like, oh my god, I hope I get her. Then they paired me with her. I was like, what are the chances? I was like, Mom, Christine Dye is missing out. And the first day we had like a warm up. She's like, do this, la 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 la. I was like, ah, like an idiot, like a goddamn idiot. Luckily, she thought it was nice, which was nice of her. But yeah, I've met and worked with so many of the cast from like the first couple Phantoms, and yeah, it's been really special. In that I've thought about quitting a number of times. I think we all do, because it's hard. Nobody would choose to do this. Like, yes, I'm going to struggle and wonder if I'm going to work a week from now or a month from now or not be able to ever go out and see my friends because I need to be on vocal rest or this, that, or the other thing. But I think it chooses us, and I think you have to want it that badly to tailor your entire life. Yeah. You know, people are like, oh, you're so lucky to do this. I'm like, well, here's the breakdown. Yes. Let me know. I think you're lucky to have your job that has regular hours and benefits and a pension and this and that. You're so, like, I don't think people think of it on the opposite. Yeah. They
don't. I think that people who say that you're so lucky, I think a lot of those people may have been people who were, when they were in high school, they were thinking, oh, I like doing this theater thing, but there's no future in it. So they went into business or whatever it is that they went into, you know? Yeah. And so in their minds, they're thinking about, like, the fun, the glamour, all those things that were great about it in high school, and not about the complicated taxes that we all do, the you know, all of the stresses, the you know, am I making enough? Can I afford my apartment? I have roommates. All the things that that people in theater are struggling with.
Yeah, you know? Yeah, and I have to remember that because sometimes, like, my girlfriends and I talk about it because I have one friend. She's a singer, and God, she gets it a lot. She's like, I swear to God, if I'm more person. And I was like, yeah, I get it, but I guess it's important too, in the you know, vein of having compassion for one another that Heather's is all about. Trying to be like, okay, you mean well. I'm going to assume you mean well, and just try to. But luck. I do think luck has something to do with it. Luck, talent, work ethic, timing. Yeah. I think it's like a, you know, fruit salad of things that has to happen. But I mean, luck is it. But I think it chooses us. I think we feel compelled to do it. I think we have to do it. It's an extension of who we are and how we express ourselves. And we were talking earlier about introvert, extrovert, and many performers are introverted. Yes, because theater and music is how we communicate. And when we're not, again, I don't speak for everybody, but I know for me, like when I'm on stage in that capacity or in a character, that is how I express myself, and I have to do it. Otherwise, like when I just finished a contract with Drayton and we were backstage and there was this bit where we had this like musical ride and everyone was wearing these like horse pants, like they were all Mounties. And I hadn't done a voiceover in a couple of weeks. So I gave them all voices. I was like, guys, I haven't had a session in a couple of weeks, so I really need to get this out of my system. Otherwise, I'm going to explode. So I gave 6 horses different voices. But just to the adage of I think we need to do it. And it's important to do it.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that we need to do. And there are different aspects, and there are different aspects of what I do. And I feel like I have struck a really brilliant balance, and I'm very, very grateful for the work that I do and the variety of work that I do. But yeah, I think it's something that we're called to do.
I think so. I mean, those
goofy as
people
that
who
may
say
sound.
that you're so lucky, those people, the way that I kind of feel sad because I think that they're people who gave up on their dream very, very young.
Oh, I'm ruining your table.
It's a shitty table. Don't even worry about it.
For those listening, it's a beautiful table that I've ruined. Well, then it looks like an Olympic table now. Sidebar.
So yeah, I mean, we are called to do it, and I mean, I did quit for like 5 years. I quit doing any theater for about 5 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I burned out on some stuff, and then was like, well, I don't want to do that. And a very astute friend at a certain point was like, I'm doing As You Like It, and I would like you to be Touchstone. It's like she knew what my weakness was going to be, like Touchstone was going to be my weakness. And I was like, I can't do that. I don't do that anymore. And she was like, just once. Just do it, because I think you'll have a good time.
No.
And then I was like, I did it, and I was like, the door's open, and
The old
once,
eh?
The old just one hit. Just one hit. Just one hit. And it's hard to give up. And the number of people I've talked to, a lot of people who went into it and quit, they do something because they can't not. They have to. If they've given it up entirely, nobody can give it up entirely.
No, not happily.
No,
I don't think.
no, it's true. How do you feel about so? I mean, how many rehearsals have you had for Heather so far?
I've been back for a week.
So you've been back for a week.
I've been back for a week. They've been about a week and well, I've only missed one really.
Okay.
So we're about a week and a half in proper rehearsal. Yeah.
How does being how does it feel to say you're the director?
Insane. Nutty. I think the Hart has lost their mind. No, I feel grateful. I feel like... So here's the thing, I feel like, and I've been told that, women of a certain age in theater, musical theater, TV, there's this, black hole where people don't really know what to do with you. And I was like, how do I avoid that? Because, when I was in theater school, they're like, 20% of you will make it, or 70% of you or 80% of you will not make it.
Yes.
I corrected myself from 70 to 80. My
whatever
math is great.
make it.
Whatever means. And I was like, screw that, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And I did, because I've always kind of been like, oh yeah, watch me, because I'm stubborn. So I was like, how do I make that work for me? And also, because I didn't know if I was going to lose my voice or not, but I was like, so I think for me, it's also something that I wanted to look to for the future in a way to continue working in a creative field. How does it feel to say it? I don't know. I feel very proud. I feel very privileged. I feel very grateful. I feel like they will all worship me. No, isn't that why you go into? No, I'm kidding.
Sure, of course.
So to be honest, at this point, while I'm speaking to you today, it's been mostly music and choreography because so much of it is these huge production numbers.
Yeah.
And the challenge with this show is it is a musical number with scenes and fights and choreo and staging.
Yeah.
So it's insane. I think we're all nuts. Because of the structure of the theater, we get 2 evenings and a weekday or a weekend day with this cast, which is why I'm so grateful to have such a brilliant cast because we really don't have a lot of time to put it together. No. But they've really committed and bought into, the message and what our intention is doing the show. Mm-hmm. To say so, I've really just kind of it's been cool because I've consulted with my choreographer and we sat down and we're like, well, what do you think of this number? What is your inspiration? What do you have in mind for this? And I'm like, well, I think that this number is inspired by this style of dance or from this show, or I'd like it to reflect this number. And then these are a couple things I'd really like to happen within it to further the story or support the narrative. So we've worked together that way, and then I've kind of been there to like consult as we go. Same with music. I'm like, well, this is, we've worked on like intention and what we're talking about as we sing these songs, but I'm trying just not to step on anybody's feet right now.
Yeah.
But this week, like, if we did this next week, I could probably maybe have more to tell you, but this week I start doing scenes.
Right.
So today I did a lot of work with my assistant director being like, here's what I have in mind for this and this, and how does this look like? Just getting a second opinion, because I don't know if what I think actually makes sense outside of my head. So we've been doing a lot of that. But the work I have done, even just in auditions and callbacks, has been really educational, like teaching me, realizing how much I actually do know what I'm talking about sometimes, which I maybe discredit myself for more than I should. It feels right. It feels good. It feels like this is a good show for me to do. I mean, God, I think it's insane that it's a 20-person like mega musical, but I've never been one to dip my toe in. It's all or nothing.
All or nothing.
You know?
No 3-person little musical for you to start.
No, maybe I should have. I mean, I was the assistant to the director on the show I just did, which was really insightful. But yeah, it feels like it's a good situation. Yeah. Yeah, it feels good.
Good.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited about it.
Is there anything that's similar about directing to curating? You curate the Studio 120 or the
120 Diner, the Sunday Cabaret series, Well, I've been, and that's another thing that kind of was like, can I do this? Because I teach voice privately, and I've been mentoring a lot of young artists for their cabaret. So I was like, it's kind of a transferable skill, I'd like to think. Like, because I've been, with my students that do musical theater, I've been helping them with doing text work and doing staging and this and that in small bits here and there. And same with like my I used to teach groups of younger kids, and that's directing small cast. There's my 3-person musical was my recital last year. So it's kind of a thing that I've been doing, and mentoring these artists for their cabarets and answering questions and giving ideas, but allowing, just being like, well, consider this or consider this. And then they take that and they make it, they translate it into their own language, and then they put it into their own physicality, and they do it. And it's been awesome. Like, I get the same sense of pride in them, in my cast now, as I did or do with my students or with the artists that I mentor, a lot of which are actually in my cast, which has been awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, so I would say there are a lot of transferable skills.
Okay.
And I think really a thing that is important is to trust the people you've hired and give them credit that they have something to offer as well. So that's been easy too, to just be like, show me how you interpret this, and then we'll go from there, and giving suggestions and letting them realize it on their own, because I feel like it makes for a very authentic performance. Yes, like there's fine-tuning here and there obviously, but it's been a really exciting process to see them make these realizations and make these choices and ask questions. Like, there's one guy in my cast who asks the best questions, and it's I think there's a lot of parallels and a lot of like things that are very directorial in teaching and in the artist mentoring and in even hosting and watching people and encouraging people. Because at the end of the day, the director's the leader, and a good leader is on the level with their crew or with their team or whatever, leading at the same level. And I feel like we're all very much on the same page and on the same level. Because that's, would I have a different answer if I had 5 years of Stratford as a director under my belt? Probably. But for where I am now, it's been interesting just realizing, I've done this before in this capacity. So
How
I do
long
find.
did you host the Monday nights at Statler's?
Monday nights we did for 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah, so we're on a hiatus, and then we're gonna relaunch hopefully in the fall.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
That was so Jenny Burke, who's a brilliant musical theater performer, hosted it, the last incarnation of Statler's, and then the venue closed and reopened, and Jenny was out of town doing her own thing and has been doing her own thing nonstop since. She is amazing and such an inspirational powerhouse. And they, I was asked if I would be interested, and I said yes. And then we turned it into a beautiful community, and we have like the Dora Awards, which we may still have this summer. I'm still getting my footing after being gone for so long, but yeah, it was a beautiful community that we built, and like you said, for people who don't maybe perform as a career, it was a place for them to come in and be among like-minded people, and they get to perform and have a good time and kind of still have their finger on the scene, sort of thing. So that, it was divine intervention, or just it was a nice gift, and I learned a lot from it, and I met a lot of people, and we did a lot of really great collaborations. It was a really special thing, and we're gonna see what the future of it is. I don't know at the moment, but it was really the community outpouring for support of it was really great. So we'll see where that goes, but it was a really great experience for a lot of people. I'm very proud of it.
Is there a particular lesson that you can think of that you learned from the Statler's performance, the open mic?
It's a very good question. A lesson I've learned. I've learned that the Toronto performance community is strong and special. And when you need them, they are there. Whether you realize it in the moment or not, it is a beautiful community of people. And I'm very proud to be part of it. I'm very proud to have played any role in its support. And I've learned that this city is full of brilliantly talented and supportive, kind people. I think is the best thing. And I learned how to shut down hecklers. That was a big one too. But that was a big lesson.
Were there a lot of hecklers at the
not near the end, but near the beginning I can remember. And actually, this was when I was talking to Glenn Sumi last year when we did our Fringe article. I brought this up too. I remember one of my first nights, we were still kind of trying it out, and I was doing it was like a test kind of cabaret night that I did just as like a cabaret. And kind of the art is songs and stories that support each other and tell a bigger story. So I was telling a story, and I'd sung a song, and this drunk guy at one of the tables was like, "Shut up and sing." And that is exactly what you just did right now. So Phil just closed his eyes and looked mortified. I shut down. I can't, the most, I think, on stage, rehearsal, I can shut down in rehearsal, depending on what we're doing. But on stage, I'm generally pretty good. But you could see every, bit of love and joy just drain from me. And, so building up my thicker skin and being able to deal with it with a sense of humor and not be a dick back to them, because it's you're clearly miserable. I am not, so I am not going to punch down. Right? Rather, find a way to work with it. Find a way to work with it. That's not punching down. So I learned how to punch up, I would say. And I think, and I've done more hosting since I started doing that show, and that's really been helpful just in general to have that skill of taking something someone says that may be somewhat offensive or off color or something, and just changing it up. Because it was really important to me to make the vibe of that show supportive and empowering and safe. So I was like that, and that was a big motivation of it. I was like, I never want to be spoken to like that again, and I don't want anyone at my show to be spoken to that way. So kind of setting the example of be kind, be supportive. This is a safe space.
You definitely. I was listening to because Chelsea Johnson's podcast did an episode where they aired.
They did. We collaborated. On 2 parts. It was a great couple of nights that we did with
and
her.
Hearing, because you could hear you dealing with people. And no, because it was a really positive way to deal with people talking, people just generally the way that you dealt with an unruly crowd of people who were drinking and singing. It was really quite good.
Thank you. And I mean, there's always that kind of double-edged thing of regular patrons at the bar on one side, and then our kind of audience on the other side. So mediating from the people who don't give a shit to the people who do give a shit. And it's how do we... And anytime I've learned if you can't beat them, ignore them.
Yes.
So I was like, anytime they were unruly, and it happened from time to time. It was never too bad, but I mean, it is a bar. At the end of the day, shit's gonna happen. Yeah. So I was like, sing to us. We're listening. Ignore the people that don't care. Focus on the people who do, which is I think we've learned a lot of transferable life lessons within that little pod of safety, right? Like, you can't please everybody. Fuck them. Like, you ignore them. They're not worth that's energy you won't get back. It will never cycle back to you. Yeah. But if you invest in people who are investing in you and listening to you and taking you in, you are going to get it back. Instead of it just being draining. And there are some nights that are slower than others, and it's difficult and it's draining, but generally, like, we were able to establish a vibe in that room that was very energy exchange, right? And so, I appreciate you saying that, because that was my number one priority. I tell them, I'm like, the world is hard enough. Yeah. Let's be nice to each other in here. Whatever happens after that or before that, I can't control. But the 3 hours I get you, let's do this. Let's be a team and let's go for it. Which is what I tell my cast. I'm like, I get you for 5 hours a night. Let's do the thing. Yes. Let's be a team. Let's make this happen, and then let's celebrate each other. So it's But thank you for saying that. That's very important to me when we were doing that show.
Absolutely. Where can we find you online?
Online, well. I have a website, jenniferwalls.com, that we're going to be updating soon. I'm really bad with that. But I'm also on the Instagram, Jenny Walls, TOJENI. And I don't use Twitter that much anymore. No. I just kind of link it to my Instagram now that I know how to use Instagram. I didn't even have my own account until like a few months ago.
Whose account were you using?
I had one for the show.
Okay.
And then I was like, you can have two Instagram accounts, because when we did it the first time, you could only have one.
No, and that's actually a relatively recent thing, and they made it easy to switch between. So
I know. Well, thank you, Jenna Warner, for showing me. She would co-host my show when I was away, and she also works on my social media and has been really brilliant in helping me figure out how it all works. Because I know the '80s. Do I know that the social media is now? Not as much. Which is why the kids and I make a good team.
Well, the kids. I was actually thinking earlier, like, how difficult is it for the kids to be like, so why doesn't she just call on her cell phone? Or, like, all these, things that we don't have.
We haven't had none of that. They're a very, I think they did their research, and I think they all... Good. Yeah, and there's, there are a lot of, there are scenes with phones in the show, which is, a lot of fun for us to, source different phones, rotary phones and those old cell phones with the that look like a giant cinder block.
Oh, massive things, yes.
The Zach Morris phone. Yeah. So before flip phones even. Yes. We did Clueless 2 years ago. Clueless Live. My friend Michael Hughes and me had to get 90s flip phone, cell phone. So this is even so we tackled the 90s, now the 80s, so maybe the next show I do will be in the 70s, and there'll be no phones at all.
No phones at all. We didn't have phones in the 70s.
We used the mail.
Yeah, just the mail.
I still like using the mail. And we have a hashtag for our show as well. HHH Heathers, so Hart House Heathers.
Yes.
We use the Chia theme song. Ha 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 Heathers. Because I'm a nerd. T-O. HH Heathers T-O.
Excellent.
And we have little things here and there and bits and bobs and all that kind of stuff, so people can keep track of the show that way.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. So there's it's a lot, but it's all very exciting.
Well, I mean, it does sound like the whole idea of the first directing thing that you do being this massive 20-person thing sounds like a lot, but it sounds like you're kind of in your element, to be honest with me.
I feel pretty good. Yeah. And they're a great group. They're really receptive, and they're very warm, and they're very good to me.
Good.
And I'm very grateful for all of them. And I high school, I was all of I think we go through 1 million personalities in high school. So everybody, we were all of those people.
Yes.
At one point or another. We all felt like the poor, nerdy geek who gets picked on. And we all had moments where we either felt like the popular girl, wanted to be the popular girl, hated the popular girl. So many lyrics in this show are the inner thoughts that we all had.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, it'll be interesting to when the audience comes in to see what they identify with. But yeah, at times I'm like, I'm terrified. What am I doing? But then I get in there and I'm like, I love this. I love it. I just love being surrounded by people that are excited to do the work and with a beautiful score and script and yeah, like I've been in a bunch of shows and directed by great directors and led groups of people to do things, and like my mom says, oh, you've always been putting choreography to music, and my mom doesn't actually sound like that. She's probably listening. Sorry, Mom. She sounds a lot more just like I do. But I think we're meant to do and try things, and I think this is something that I'm somewhere I'm meant to be right now, and I'm working my butt off to do it. And like talking to people who like directors and producers and actors, and I went to Stratford to see shows and watch what their pictures were, and watching it from a director's point of view rather than an actor. It's like, how would I perform that? I'm like, well, why are they standing there, and why are they looking this way, and what are they, and what is this convention, and who goes, it was a really exciting experience. But I think this is where I'm meant to be right now, for better or for worse. But I feel very grateful that it's happening, and I'm gonna do my best to tell the story with a group of people that have bought into it and that are trusting me with their work right now and their time and their energy, and it's great. I love it. I'm so happy about it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me.
This has been a Homebody Productions production.